Hey, what's going on? It's Joe Rock, and proud to have with me via Zoom my good friend JJ French from Twisted Sister. How are you, JJ?
You know, it's not snowing, it's not raining, there's no fires. Things are good in Manhattan right now. You know, things weren't good for a long time.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, things were, in all seriousness, horrible. And when people say to me, like, I don't understand why you have to wear a mask, whatever, I said, you don't understand what it's like to have lived in New York City in April, May, and June. I lost 6 people.
Oh, wow, I'm really sorry.
All right. I lost 6 people, and I had another dozen get sick from anywhere from lost taste, smell, all the way to almost going into the hospital for being intubated. So it was never a joke for us here. If for 3 months, all you heard on the street was ambulances going by my house to St. Luke's Hospital. Then they had that Mount Sinai had all those hospital tents on Central Park in the field. When you see that, you never see that in your life. It was scary and horrible. So we don't take it lightly. This is not politicizing this issue. It's a health issue for us, right? 100% a health issue for us. And I know that Long Island was also affected pretty heavily, but New York City was decimated.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why we're talking today is because 2021, we're finally going to see the long rumored, often threatened JJ French book, Twisted Business.
Yeah. Boy, it took years. It took years. Well, there's 2 things happening. The book is coming out. I'm getting a podcast, which is cool. And again, Joe, because you're a very outgoing guy. You're in the media business, so people interview you all the time. I'm on so many podcasts, it's insane. And finally, a podcast company said, why you should have your own. And so it's called The French Connection. I'm excited about it, and it's gonna be very wide ranging. It's not music. I mean, it will be. Yeah. Part of it. It has to be. It's a big part of my life. Bands and music and blah, blah, blah. But it's going to be a lot of things. I want it to be about all the things I'm interested in, my hobbies and health issues, because I've certainly had enough health issues, and I certainly know a lot about certain health issues. Unfortunately, having had to experience them, you learn a lot about them. So I think from an educational standpoint, I want to educate people on prostate cancer. I want to educate people on heart disease. I had 2 heart procedures. I want to educate people on uveitis, my daughter's eye disease. So hopefully I can use it as a platform, for a lot of good things. And the book is going to be fun. It's a business book because I was, as you know, ran the business of the band, and the band was a business-oriented band, which kind of runs counter to most rock bands.
But you know what? It's kind of funny you say it's a business book and everything, because for the longest time when I first met you, and somehow the 2 have melded into one for me, there was always like 2 JJs. There was, JJ who you were having a great time with or anything, and then we went to talk business in any way, shape, or form, just the slightest bit, and you turned on a dime, and you became super serious, and you knew all this stuff. And somewhere over the years, those 2 guys have melded into one for me. But that's what it was like when I first met you, because, to talk business to you is very serious.
Well, Joe, it's called the music business, and people forget there's a second word, business, right? Music Absolutely. Business. It's not, people say, sex, drugs, rock and roll. I say there's a word missing in that descriptions: money. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. And so they figure if you're still around after sex, drugs, and rock and roll, maybe there's some money left over, right? So I think going back to the earliest days of the band, like in 1973 when I joined the band that became Twisted Sister, the first question I asked the guy who hired me to be in the band, the original drummer, Mel, I said to him, my first question was, how do we make money? Because here I was living in New York City, jamming with a bunch of bands all the time and never really working. I didn't understand what the bar business was, the scene was. And so I was entering a world that I didn't know. And I just said to him, how do we make money? And by the way, he wasn't cynical about it. These guys were maybe my age or maybe a year older than me, but they were from Jersey. So they had already played in the bar scene. maybe a year or two. So they knew the bar scene. So immediately he said, oh, we got work right away. If we don't suck, we got a job. And I said, well, what do you mean? He says, everybody works. And I said, what do you mean? He said, there's thousands of clubs here. And, you know, like drinking age is like, 18 and, everyone's 15 and the clubs are huge and you just have to be able to be a good cover band. So I said, well, how much money do you make? And he said, well, to start, we'll make like 150 a night. And I said, how many nights are we going to work? He said, we'll work 6 nights a week. I said, right off the bat, 6 nights a week, right? And he goes, yeah. I said, so what do you play and then you leave and you go to another? He goes, no, you go to one club, you stay for a whole week. I went, that's how it was in those days. You played a week, 6 days, from Tuesday to Sunday in a room. Yeah. So I thought, wow, you make $900 for the week, every week, $3,600 for a month. Like the numbers immediately start coming to me. I go, how much is we live in a house. They had a house. How much is the house rental? Like just $300 a month. Because remember, it's 1973, right? Right. I go, how much is gasoline? Now, I didn't drive. I'm a New York kid, so I knew nothing about cars, gasoline, nothing. Right. So right there, 23 cents a gallon, right? So I'm going, and that's how much it was. Yeah. I mean, we all kidding aside, that's what life was like. Right. Everything was cheap. I mean, everything was relative. Do you know what I mean? It was all relative. So you make $900 a week for a band, $3,600 a month. If your house rental is $300 and your gas is 23 cents a gallon and you're sticking in one room and you're staying in a hotel room, one room with like the 6 guys, everyone's crashing. Right. Think about the economics. It made sense. You made money. And when you started making money, like $300 a night, $400 a night, $500 a night, you were making money. So he wasn't kidding. And I immediately glommed onto the economics of it and said, the only way you can have a stable business is that you have money coming in. Duke Ellington has a quote. I just saw this quote lately. It's going to be in my book. Okay. Duke Ellington says, to keep a band together, you need a gimmick. My gimmick was I paid the musicians. And we immediately started taking a salary. And that's how it all started.
Yeah. All right. So when you were putting together the book, was there things that you were like experiences? Because I know in the movie, We Are Twisted F and Sister, there are definitely points where you deal with other people. I know that you borrowed some money in different points along the way. Were there milestones like that you were like, I have to put this into the book and I have to explain to people how this works and how it would
impact the band?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it had to be. And I had to be honest because, the book, I called the book, so follow me on this. It's a biz war. What's a biz war? It's a business book and a memoir. Most books about business guys are biz wars because Steve Jobs can't be Steve Jobs unless you know his story, right? Yeah. You have to know the reason why people became the people they became. I had to be honest in the book and explain that I became what I became because of my experiences and the reason why we ran a business and the reason why we were so straight, which shocks people no end, is because I had a drug problem and I was a drug dealer. I did all, you gotta tell the story, right? Yeah. And it was all those near disasters that scared me straight, and then turned me into this brutally straight business guy because of these other issues. So when you talk about milestones in the history of the band, like did things happen that made me aware of how things had to be? It happened all the time. And I wasn't flinching away from it because everything happens. Let me put this correctly. People go, everything happens for a reason. That's true. There is a reason for everything happening. Whether that reason is preordained may be up to whether you're religious or not religious or whatever. Yeah. All right, putting that aside, everything happens for a reason. It's like there's reasons why stuff happens, good, bad, or whatever. You have to take those and you have to process them. And then you have to decide if you're moving forward or not and what you're going to do. So the setbacks we had, I mean, I tell people we were turned down more times than a bedsheet in a whorehouse and we came back more times than Freddy Krueger. But Joe, you and I have had these discussions, right? And you know that they're not they know they're all true.
Absolutely.
Every one of them is 100% true. They're absurd, but they're true. And frankly, you know that phrase, there but for the grace of God go I?
Right.
There are a lot of bodies out there that fell apart so I could learn my lesson. I don't discount that. I don't take it for granted. But a lot of people's lives were destroyed in my eyes that I saw. And I kind of looked at every one of those episodes and said, learn from that, learn from that, learn from that, learn from that. So when you and I discussed the Long Island bar scene and how many years it took to make it, we had all those speed bumps on that highway.
Mm-hmm.
Always. So, you know, it all matters.
Now that makes me want to ask you here, because, you know, we know each other. Proud to be able to say you're my friend. So I read these articles every now and then that reference you.
Yeah.
And I'm reading one yesterday that says, and let me finish the complete question before you
Right.
answer this, that you have retired from music, that you gave away all your guitars, but you also say never say never.
Okay.
How much truth do you believe there is to those statements?
So I retired from live performing. That's true. I was tired. You know, how many years ago did you and I meet? Like 7, 8 years ago? Maybe, right?
Oh, definitely longer than that.
Longer than that.
It's
But
gotta be like 12,
after
13 at this
okay,
point.
but after the band reformed for the second
Yes.
time, right?
Yes.
Okay. So as you know, in the old days when we hated each other, like we were never going to reform.
Yeah.
And then we did reform for the right reason, 9/11 tribute, right?
Right.
And then we went on to have this ridiculous 14-year career. And because we've discussed it a million times, the crowds in Europe and South America are off the charts, crazy. As every year was going by, I'm getting older and I'm getting more tired, and then when AJ died, that really just killed me. I have to tell you, man, AJ's death, I can't underestimate the effect it had on me emotionally. He was a brother to me. He was a brother. Not only was he a brother, but he represented the stability in this band of this rock. AJ was a rock. Like, you could just depend on it, man. Like, we would have a year off between tours, and then we would come back into the studio at Danny's Evolution Studios, in Suffolk County, and we always just shoot them down. First song of every season to warm up.
Yeah.
The minute that drum crack, bang, you go, okay, everything is good. Everything's good. And it doesn't mean, by the way, that Mike Portnoy isn't a phenomenal drummer.
Yeah, he's amazing. Phenomenal.
But he's not AJ. And, nothing will be AJ from
Right.
me. And so he gave me this comfort zone. He used to call me Mr. French. I called him Mr. Pirro. It was like an ongoing joke because he watched Family Affair. He'd go,
Yeah.
Mr. French, how are you, Mr. French? I go, Mr. Pirro, how are you, Mr. Pirro? Right? So we had this, I loved him. And when he died, and we decided maybe we should come up with a blueprint for ending it. So we did. I retired. And so I'm happily retired. I mean, I don't go to a gig and want to be on that stage. I don't. And I go to shows with Sharon, my wife, because she wants to go to shows. So we'll walk into a theater or an arena pre-COVID, and she'll go, how do you feel? And my response is, thank God I don't have to be up on that stage. Okay? So I am blissfully retired. However, I did a recording session yesterday.
Really?
Yeah. So I played on a track yesterday for
who?
European.
Tell us a little bit about it.
I will, but it was fun.
Yeah.
I recorded. I had a good time. Now, guitars. I have 60 of them. Like, that's about average for guitar players I know. How many pairs of shoes does your wife have? Let me ask you that question.
She has more pairs of shoes than I have guitars. We have this conversation constantly.
Yeah. So my wife's shoes have sex at night because there's more in the morning. I mean, I say to her, it's like Gremlins or something. Like, her shoes have sex, and there's way more the next day. I don't know why, but we always kid each other about shoes, guitars, whatever. So I have a lot of guitars, but when I go on tour, I'm endorsed by Epiphone. I love them. they give me guitars. I take them on tour. If they're stolen, I don't care. If my roadie's having a fight with his girlfriend and breaks a neck, that's happened. I don't care. I don't care, right? They're perfectly great guitars. They're tools, right? They're tools. And they give them to me. So at the end of the last date, the last show, I had whatever guitars I had on that tour, I gave them to my crew. I said, here. Now, up until then, at the end of the tours, we signed them and gave them to charities, which is always a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, I said to my crews, like my guitar techs and everyone, I said, just take the guitar. So that's actually true as well.
Okay.
So will we ever play again? The big question, Eddie Trunk, come on, everyone gets together. Well, Joe, I swore we would never play again after 1987. And that's when we didn't like each other. And we did play again. And now we're so old, we forgot why we hate each other. So, no, I have nothing against it. I saw Mark last night. You know, Dee and I texted this morning. Eddie and I talk all the time. Eddie and I go back 50 years to high school, right? Yeah. So if you ask me, will it ever, I can't say it will never happen because something could happen. But if you ask me, when we came back the second time, I wanted to come back. I dreamed there was some unfinished business. There's very little unfinished business with the band. I mean, we played the biggest shows of our lives. We headlined, we came back for 14 years on a reunion that was supposed to last 2 years. Okay? 2003, I figured, 2003, 2004, 2005, it'll be over. Oh no. Bigger offers. 2006, 2007, oh no. This guy, no, it can't be, it's gotta be over. Oh no. It got bigger and bigger. So when we walked away in 2016, we played to an average of 60,000 people a night for the last shows, up to 110,000 twice. People say to me, how do you walk away from that? Valid question. I get it. If you're a weekend warrior or you never experienced it, it's a very valid question. My answer to that is I've done 9,000 performances and I really don't need to be JJ French on stage, even in front of 100,000 people. It doesn't mean I don't love it. But talking to Mark Mendoza, when we would come back from those weekend jaunts, how tiring it was.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? It would kill us to go, this is what I tell people. On a Thursday afternoon, I'm having a slice of pizza on Broadway and 92nd Street. And then on Sunday, I'm having a slice of pizza. But in between those 2 days, I flew 8,000 miles to do 2 shows and I don't even know where the hell I am. Or to be more specific, Danny Stanton once booked us over a weekend period, Arctic Circle and Oklahoma, right? 95 time zones away from each other. And 10 flights. We made every flight. We did the shows. All the flights came and went on time. And I get home on that Monday morning and Sharon looks at me and says, how do you feel? And I said, I used to pay money in high school to get in this condition. It took me a month, right, to get over it. So, Danny Stanton, who you know. Yes. So we made a song for Danny Stanton. Now,
wait, before you do the song, just for everybody else who doesn't know who Danny is, road manager for Twisted Sister.
Yeah, tour manager, road manager, assistant manager, wears every hat, right?
And if you happen to see a guy hanging around at the show that looks like Riff Raff, that's him.
Right, he's a booking agent, right? So, the song, Hello Mother, Hello Father, here's well, we wrote one for Danny Stanton. It goes, here's our agent, Danny Stanton, Monday China, Tuesday Scranton. So that weekend that he booked that, now, just to be clear, it was a lot of money there, right? So we didn't do this to eat at McDonald's.
Fun. Yeah.
It was lucrative, but my God, 4 flights to get to the Arctic Circle. We get to the Arctic Circle, which is the highest point in Norway, Laxelv, which if you look at a map, Norway's huge. You look at Oslo and you look at where we were, that's like Miami and Toronto. That's how big it is. But we're up there. We're up there playing to 10,000 of the drunkest people you've ever seen in your life. They all look like extras from Night of the Living Dead. They stumble around. I don't even know how they function, but they go there in the summer to watch the sun not set for 2 weeks. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Called the Midnight Sun. So they hire us and Deep Purple to entertain them as they stumble around the field and collapse. So we go up there, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning. This is for real. Me and Deep, we're standing on the stage, right? And there's 10,000 people on their ass, like flat out, like drunk, just like in between every song, like that. And we're looking out. This is cool, right? I mean, I can tell you this. So we're looking at, like, we're looking out in the fjords. You know, we're in Norway, dude. We're up at the top of the freaking world. There's fjords, rock cliffs, and drunk people, and ferry boats with drunk people. I've never seen this much. And the sun is up in the sky. It's 2 in the morning, and the sun, because the sun doesn't set, you know.
Right.
It's like, is this the craziest thing we've ever done? I said, yeah, this may be the craziest thing we've ever done. Right. So we the sweetest people, the nicest people, the drunkest people. So we get off stage at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then we have to go to the airport. And we go to the airport for a plane that leaves at 6. And it goes from Laxå to Tromsø, Tromsø to Oslo, Oslo to Newark, Newark to Oklahoma City. We land 24 hours, right? 24. I'm trying to make this as long as possible to give people the idea of how long we land in Oklahoma City. It's 110 degrees. It was 55 degrees in the Arctic Circle on July 8th. July 10th is 110 in Oklahoma. We do a show. We headline Oklahoma. And then we flew home the next day. And I looked at Sharon and went, oh my God. Like, if I was 20, you know, it would be okay. But not at 62. So I got tired. So yeah, I wanted to retire and then get into motivational speaking, which is what I did.
But here's the funny thing, though, is like your retirement is somebody else's busy life, because you do the motivational speaking. We know that. You're starting the podcast. You're writing the book. You're the Beatles columnist for Goldmine. I mean,
I'm sure for Copper. I write for another magazine as well.
Okay, there you go. See, and I'm sure there's even more than that we could go on. Yeah. You know, so retirement's not so retired in your case.
No, it's not. It's not retired. I'm not performing live.
Right. Okay.
That's really it. I'm just not performing. I'm trying to stay as busy as possible. You know, as long as there's ibuprofen, I can rock. Though I can tell you, what do they say in our world? Sex, prescription drugs, and rock and roll.
Well, you know, I just wanted to make sure we clarified on all that stuff, because number one, I never want to see you stop doing anything. I'm always going to try and drag you out to play with my band too. And,
which, by the way, it's one of those things that I actually really like doing. You know.
Oh, thank you.
I really enjoy it. I do, because you don't care if I make mistakes. It doesn't really matter. I don't care that you sing Springsteen songs. We forgive each other. We forgive each other for everything, for every trespass that we have. We just forgive.
Well, the other thing that was really important in that too is that, like, look, man, if you're ever giving away all the guitars, I got a couple that I want coming to me. I'm just saying.
Okay. No, I you know, playing with you guys is the fun thing.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to just show up and you play a million different songs and you just play your guitar and have a blast. And those days are, God, it seems like so long ago, doesn't it, man?
It's been a while since we've jammed together.
Yeah, but not just that, just that
just since we played, period, we could, yeah. Period.
Right, we can't do it. But when you called me to do that thing at the rock and roll, you know, the guitar thing at the Met, that was fun.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we had a great time, you know, without a doubt. So, you know, we do have to get together again, but the viewers don't care about when we get together, so